Hello, everybody. You can hear me, can you? Okay, go ahead and type in yes. All y'all don't need to, but maybe one or two people type in yes if you can hear me. Just in case my mic isn't working, I see we already have some good questions in the chat, so that should be cool. My name is Andrew Krauss, and I co-founded inventRight with Stephen Key over 20 years ago. And we've been coaching and mentoring inventors to successfully license their products to large companies and receive royalties for the past 2 decades. And we have a coaching and mentoring program, but we do a lot of free stuff too. We do our YouTube show. I don't know exactly how many YouTube videos. I haven't looked, 700 videos or something like that. You can watch our YouTube videos, get the live stream right here. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Clyde, for confirming you can hear me. Excellent, excellent. All right. So I'm just going to summarize. I do this most live streams, and I'll give you the 60-second pitch on licensing. So when you license, it's the big company's money. You don't need to raise money. Hey, Andrew, how do I raise money? I'm like, you don't need to. You license it to a big company. They're going to invest their money in the product. Two, they're going to use their workforce. So they have sales, marketing, manufacturing, advertising. Let's say they're doing kitchen gadgets. All those departments know exactly what to do with the 100+ kitchen gadgets or however many products they particularly have. I'm using that as an example, of course, to plug into all those departments. So basically what I'm saying is it's a machine. So if you have an automotive product and they have 80 automotive products, there's this machine. You're plugging your product into their machine. If you have a kitchen gadget and it's a kitchen company, you're plugging your product into their machine. Your product is one more product in their product line. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing because they have that machine, the money machine, the workforce, and the most critical thing, existing distribution in stores already. So you're getting the money, the workforce, and the distribution. People go on silly shows like Shark Tank and go, do they get the money or don't they get the money, right? And it makes for intriguing TV, but licensing is a lot sexier than Shark Tank actually in reality because there's not a lot of reality to reality TV. When you're licensing, that's how it works. Now, is it all perfect? You're going to license every product you work on? No. Are you going to have to call a ton of companies before you get one to say yes? Yeah, most of the time you do. Most of our students, they reach out to 20 or 30 companies, sometimes 40 or 50, and you only need one to say yes. Most inventors never do that. That's why most inventors never succeed. I would say, having done this for 20 years, we've had students in over 65 countries. It's about that kind of persistence. It's about the business side of things, getting it in front of companies. It's not about your great idea. And I like to say that to shock people. If I had an inventRight student had an okay idea, but they really pushed, they are going to license it way before the inventor with a really cool idea, but they're barely pushing. So the process and the business side and the work you have to do to get licensed is way more important than the idea itself. Now, I'm not saying you can't license a lump of coal, but it doesn't have to be that mind-blowing because these companies are very uncreative a lot of the time. Not all of them, but a lot of them are very uncreative. So you have something that they don't have. Never undervalue what you have and your creativity and realize that you have something that they don't have. Okay. You also have the ability to look at it from a little outside the box. People, when they stick around in an industry, they get a little stale in their thinking, their design department, their marketing team, all that. And you're coming at it from a fresh perspective. So never undervalue what you're bringing to the table when you're presenting your products to big companies. All right. So, okay. So let's go ahead and get started here. Chuck says, when is it okay time to simultaneously shop an invention to another company if the one you submitted it to has acknowledged that they liked it, but goes silent for a month or two? Okay. So he's saying, when is it okay to simultaneously shop an invention to another company? 100% of the time. You don't have to wait for them to go silent for a month or two. And that is a massive mistake that inventors make. You get really excited because this one company showed interest. Oh, these are my guys. These are my guys. But it can easily fall off. Them reaching out to you, having an initial phone call, maybe them wanting to look into some things more is not close to a done deal. So you need to go out and keep reaching out to more companies. You have no obligation to that company that showed a little bit of interest or even more than a little bit of interest. You need to have a lot of irons in the fire all at once. So this is what's going to happen. I'll tell you what's going to happen if you don't do that. So, you got 30 companies on your list. You reach out to five, one shows interest. Oh, I'm all excited. So then you just stop calling all the rest, right? You stop sending LinkedIn messages, you stop calling all the rest. And you start working with that company and they go back and forth. And sometimes it could be months. And then after 2.5 months, they're like, we decided not to, and they give you reasons maybe. Um, and you're like, oh, okay. Then you start calling companies again and you keep calling. And then you get another one interested. Oh, and then you stop again. And now it's this time, let's say it's a month and a half goes by. So it will take freaking forever if you do that. It's okay to be talking to multiple companies, and you always should. So, Chuck, the answer is you don't need to wait a month or two of them not being responsive to reach out to another company. You should have kept calling other companies. The second you got interest in that company, you should have never stopped. So that's my answer. Okay. And most inventors don't do that. But our students do things, our coaching, the students that we coach do things that most inventors don't do, and that's why they're successful. If you do what most inventors do, you will fail. Because most inventors just make it up in their head. They had no formal training of any kind. They didn't talk to other inventors that have been successful, yet they come to these false conclusions. So, you want to do anything in life. Stephen and myself have been talking about this enough. You get training. You want to be a plumber. You want to learn how to play football. You want to learn different things. You get guided. But for some reason, inventors think that, oh, I don't need any guidance. I just know. I know this is what I should do. It's like, who told you that? So that's just some mindset stuff. Sometimes I seem like I'm upset, but I'm just excited to share that information with you guys. So Chuck, great question. Keep pushing forward, okay? Caleb, hello, Andrew. If I also have a pro version of my concept, it's a tool. When should I present it to the potential licensee? Should it be included with the standard use version? Well, the question is, like we had one of our coaches, Kirk, he licensed the product to a major tool company, and he just licensed the pro version because they're going to sell just to professional mechanics. Okay. And so it depends on who you're submitting to. If it's a company selling professional tools to professional mechanics and they're not selling to consumers, well, then why would you present them the consumer version? So it's like, what are they doing? What's right for the company? And some you may present both if they're doing both. Some you may present just the professional version. Some you may just present the consumer version. So, and I think if it's like a tool, for example, if licensees aren't stepping on each other's toes, if you get deep into a deal and you want to talk to the company about possibly being able to license another version of it elsewhere, you just have to think, will this step on their toes? So will selling this tool in Home Depot, because you license to a company for regular consumers to buy, will that make the licensee that sells on the Snap-on tool truck to professional mechanics upset? Or is that going to mess them up because they see something similar that it's at a much lower price point? Well, in the professional one, it looks a lot better. So you have to do what makes sense. But here's the simple solution. Work on one of the versions first, or both at the same time if you want, and just see what you get interest in first. And it's a good problem to have, to figure out if you want to give them the exclusive for all categories or just one category. And that's something you can negotiate, of course. And it's not something you want to talk about on the first call with them, though. It's something you want to get things moving forward, right? Got it. Barely read this. Atesh, just because of my eyes. So Ate, I guess is the name. I'm sorry, I couldn't get your name right. Hi, Andrew. I know this is a question mark, might be subjective, but how long does it take the average, on average, for someone to finish all 3 1v1 calls for the Academy program until they're ready to start calling companies? Oh, okay. I see what, I read that before we got started. I didn't know what you were talking about. And then he said, and can I switch to the one-on-one professional coaching from Academy program? If yes, at what point? So yeah, if you join our Academy program, which is group coaching with just three one-on-one calls at very specific points, that's not the same as 6 months of one-on-one calls every single week, right? But yeah, you can switch at any point. I would say if you got on one of your one-on-one calls on the academy, one of those three, and you're like, oh God, this is what I need, I would switch to professional one-on-one coaching where you're going to talk to them every single week right away. If you're not certain, give me a call. I can talk to you. I'm assuming you're already a student, is my guess. So you can send an email to Andrew and InventRight and talk to me if you're uncertain about making that switch. Let's see. Smitty said, "Hi Andrew, if I'm going to present to Mark Port, and he's a guy that Stephen has on our YouTube show sometimes, and he has a company. Can I start dialoguing with him and present it to him before I finish the PPA?" We always advise our students and our fans to always file a PPA before start presenting to companies. So that's my general advice to give you there. It's only $75, guys. You should just always file a PPA before you start reaching out to companies. Okay. Um, Thoughtful Jones says, "Thank you, Andrew, for the email response." You're welcome. I don't know what I said to you, but I forget. Zam said, "Hello, Andrew. How do I hold off a company I have multiple offers and interests? Thanks." How do I hold off a company? I could teach you a million. If you're an InventRight student, I could teach you a million ways till Tuesday to hold off with one company while you have interest from others. So it sounds like Zam has interest from a company, but he thinks maybe he could have a bigger company or a better company. It's not necessarily that if the company's bigger that they're better. It could be a really big company that has small plans for your idea. It could be a medium to large size or medium sized company that has big plans for your idea. So I always tell people, don't just look at the size of the company, although that is very telling. Also look at what their plans are. And you need to have those active discussions with them. I've talked to inventors that are not InventRight students. They hadn't really even been following us. They just kind of found us later. And they did deals with companies. And I asked them, so where does the company you license to distribute? And they didn't know. It's like, what? That's just insane. So, but let's get back to Smitty's question. Oh no, that wasn't Smitty's. That was Zam's. How do I hold off one company if I have multiple offers and interest? So this is what we do with our students. When our students get interest, we put them on with our negotiation coach, Paul, and Paul will guide them through the deal. They move forward with every company as if the others don't exist. It's very common for our students to get interest from multiple companies, but initial interest and being towards the end of a deal are two completely different things. So, Sam, you should move forward with everyone as if the other one doesn't exist. I don't care if one is smaller. You should try to move that whole thing forward. Okay. Definitely. And if you don't feel confident to do it on your own, you can sign up with us and I'll put you on with our negotiation coach and he'll guide you through it. Let's see. Stefan said 110 companies for my first. Wow. 45 for my second. That's a lot of companies, 110. I've talked to a few InventRight students that went that extreme. So I don't know what you're saying with regards to that, Stefan, if you haven't done that many and you haven't licensed. If that's the case, you have to ask yourself, is what I'm sending via email, is my sell sheet good? Am I approaching the right companies? These are all things you need to ask yourself. So I'll repeat that. Take a look at your presentation. If let's say you're saying you get to 110 companies, did you get a no from 110? Because people say, "Oh, I reached out to 110." They reached out once. They didn't reach out again. It's like, well, they didn't respond, so they must not be interested. It's like, why are you assuming that? They're just busy. And plenty of our students, they'll reach out maybe the fourth, fifth time they reached out, then the company responds as if they've never seen the other ones because they're busy. It's just could be just another LinkedIn message or just another email that they thought was spam or something like that. So, Stefan, keep reaching out. And when you get feedback from some, if you realize from 3 or 4 companies, they're asking the same question, you're like, that was pretty clear in my sell sheet. And then you look at it and you're like, oh, maybe I didn't make that clear. Then I'd resend to everybody. Okay. So make adjustments. Don't just think in a linear way where you're just going to get your sell sheet, just send it once and then go, I'm done. Okay. Now I'm not saying you're doing these things, Stefan. This is just general advice for everybody. Bob said, what industry is easiest to get a licensing deal in your opinion? I think that there are certain industries that are more difficult, but I don't think there's any one industry that's just like a piece of cake. Um, I'll tell you some industries that are difficult. Software is difficult, but if you have a background in software, it's really no different than licensing a standard consumer product. If you don't have a background, it's very difficult because the software geeks look at you and go, "Well, come on, guy, that's going to take 6 guys in a room a year to program," because your thought you didn't realize how complicated it was. So software can be difficult, but for a software developer or somebody who's been in software as a living, I don't think it's that bad. The industry that my business partner is in um, is brutal. It's packaging. So it's the product. It's the package that a product goes into is actually the product itself. So he had a product that was it's like it could be on liquor bottles or it could be on vitamins or it could be on medicine or things like that, and it was a rotating label. So when you think about how many consumables go into packages and get thrown away, it's like bazillions of units. So there's a lot of money involved. And because there's a lot of money involved in packaging, you need to have a lockdown understanding of how it's going to be done. And then you need intellectual property patents surrounding that, maybe not just one, but more than one. And because there's so much money involved, the packaging people will kind of put the screws to you, and you better be prepared. That's going to be a lot harder deal to close. So that wasn't really answering your question. Um, who is it? Bob. I'm just saying with software and with packaging, very difficult industries. Now, I have students that have licensed software stuff and packaging stuff. I will also say fashion. Fashion, all they do is knock each other off, right? Like fashion designer comes out with something and then the other designers knock it off. It's because you can't patent a design really. You just, if it doesn't have functionality, it's just a slightly new cut for a dress or something like that. It's really hard to protect, and that's why they knock each other off. Now, I have had students that worked on like a functional clothing, or like a new handbag that something comes out of the purse and so you can find everything in your purse easy or something like that. Okay, that's fine. But still, if it's in the fashion industry, they're used to just knocking off each other basically, and they're not used to dealing with a lot of intellectual property. Now there are people that have been very successful with stuff. There's Spanx and there's other products that are out there that are functional clothing. But I would still say, even though if it's functional, this is not functional clothing. It's going to be. They just think you're some person that graduated from design school and now wants to send them a new fashion design. So they have a whole department. They'll just try to keep you out. So if you ever do work on a fashion product, you should say, no, this is a patentable product. It's not just a design. It's a functional patentable product. So they don't throw you in to think you're just somebody that graduated from design school and now is approaching Calvin Klein because you want them to see your designs. So that's what you get a lot of there. But if it's functional, you can do it, but it's still hard. Still hard. So 3 categories: software, packaging, and fashion. Most of you aren't working in. So I personally I love kitchen, home storage organization, kitchen, because there's just I moved from Silicon Valley about 13 years ago to Henderson, Nevada, which is right next to Las Vegas. So most of the trade shows are here. However, my favorite trade show is the Houseware Show in Chicago. I haven't been there a while because of COVID, and I just love that show. So many companies, very open to ideas. They just need a constant stream of new products. Everybody has housewares products, where there's something to organize your closet, like or your bathroom or the kitchen. Most of the stuff's in the kitchen or something like that. Houseware stuff is just a great category. But that's not to say that automotive aftermarket or gardening or God, there's just millions of categories. Sometimes you got these sleeping dinosaurs that are industry categories, where they're in different industries, like it's a commercial product. I just talked to somebody this morning that was working on a restaurant type product. It's a really cool product, by the way. And I'm sure it's slowed down a bit during COVID, but did you guys know that hotel restaurant supplies trump in dollar sales all of retail? So you could take Walmart, Target, Macy's, all of retail, okay? And you're going to see more dollar sales in hotel restaurant supplies. Yeah, I understand some of that is napkins and things like that and plastic forks and stuff, but that is an amazing statistic that I was shocked to hear many years ago. I probably heard that first time 10, 12 years ago, but I was shocked to hear that. So it's not just these consumer products. Hotel restaurant supplies are good. And they were trying to figure out who they should be reaching out to. She kind of already had figured it out, but I kind of helped her a little bit more. And so there's all these catalogs and websites where you're not. So normally when you're licensing to the companies that sell at the retailers. So you're licensing not to Walmart, but the companies, the manufacturers that sell at Walmart. In this case, she would be licensing to the companies that sell in all these catalogs and websites that have hotel restaurant supplies. There's a ton of them. If you type in hotel restaurant supplies, you'll just see tons and tons of websites where they're selling these products. And so in order to get in there, which is the equivalent of a retailer, you license to the manufacturers that are in there. They're qualified because they have distribution in these places. So hopefully that was helpful, Bob. I think that was a pretty detailed answer, but I don't really like just saying, oh, just do these industries, because that's kind of BS. Like if you have a good product that makes sense in that industry, but I do really like kitchen. I think that it's a really good category. Not large appliances like refrigerators. I would say small appliances are a little bit harder, but then just the gadgets, gizmos, all the different stuff. And then I would throw housewares into that. I think home storage organization is a good category. People like to keep their things organized, whether it's their small office at home or in a closet or something. I'm not talking about closet organizers. I'm just talking about things that keep you organized. It could be a closet organizer though. Let's see. Caleb attends regularly. Don't forget your legal disclaimer, Andrew. You're not an attorney. LOL. Yeah, I always give out legal disclaimer, and I don't always say it at the top. I say it somewhere in the middle quite often, that I'm not an attorney. Don't consider any of this legal advice. Please consult an attorney before you move forward with anything. That's my little legal disclaimer. Okay, Paul said, hi, Andrew. I would love to see an hour-long video that discusses all the details of licensing agreements. I live in sheer terror sorry, Paul. I live in sheer terror every day that a company could call me up to discuss one. So I'll say a few things. When people are students of ours, they know we got their back. So one of the reasons why it helps them move forward guns blazing is because they know that we'll have an answer for anything that comes up. Sometimes I get non-students telling me like, I'm interested in your program, but you know what? I'll sign up when I get interest. And guess what? I don't hear from those people because they didn't get the guidance to get the interest. So it's very rare that I hear from people saying, I'll wait. And I go, yeah, sure. You can get interest and then sign up with us. But we're going to have you doing and saying all the right things to get to that point where you get interest. So that was just a little side note. Paul, I don't think we would ever be doing that, an hour video to the public, because one thing that we learned from the YouTube show is people like to make things black and white, and licensing agreements and all the things that go in them are not black and white. So when we have an inventRight student that has a coach and Paul guides them along, I know that we're guiding them correctly. It would terrify me. It terrifies you that they might call you up. But I'm going to say something that's going to help you in a little bit. But it would terrify me to think that somebody may misinterpret something we say on an hour-long YouTube video going into licensing agreements. Sometimes people, for example, people ask what a common royalty rate is. I go, well, for consumer products, the most common we see is 5%. I would never want somebody to say that. You get interest and they ask you what they're looking for, and you say 5%. You should never do that. You need to interview them about what they're going to do with the product. 5% may be inappropriate if they're going to sell very little. 3% may be great if they're going to sell 5 million units a year. It's all relevant. So, I would personally be terrified at the conclusions people would draw from something like that. And it is a dicey situation, so much so that we have a coach guide our students through the entire process. But when they get interest, we have a specialist, that's Paul, and then they help them out, because it's that important, and one little thing can mess it up. So now I'm going to say something that's going to help you and everybody else, Paul. So when you get that initial interest, the first thing you want to do is get on the phone. You're not talking licensing agreements or terms when you do that first call. You're talking to them about the product, and maybe they misperceive something, maybe they love it, maybe they let them start talking about how much they love it. That's the type of thing that you're doing on that first call. Okay, you're not going to be doing a licensing agreement. So don't be terrified if somebody reaches back out to you and shows some interest. Now, if you're not an InventRight student, are you going to handle yourself well on that first call without our negotiation coach, Paul, properly guiding you? Probably not. But don't feel like you're going to be negotiating a licensing agreement. That's a massive misperception. Most of our students won't get the agreement. There's a lot of back and forth about it being made and different issues. We need to talk over here. What about this? What about that? That can go months sometimes before you get to a licensing agreement. So if you don't do everything right to get to a licensing agreement, that process is more important. From the second they show interest to a licensing agreement, way more important than the licensing agreement to closed. So don't worry if they ask you all these questions. Here, I'll give you one key thing, and everybody a key thing to say. When they say, "What are you looking for?" I say, "Well, I'm just looking for a reasonable royalty per unit. So when you guys make money, I would get a small royalty per unit. As you guys make money, I get paid." And of course, their knee-jerk reactions, what would that be? And say, well, it all depends on what you're going to do with the product. Let's talk about that. And if it's the first call, they probably haven't figured that out yet exactly. Once you guys, I would like to know what your plans are for the product, and then I could send you some sort of term sheet. And then you can call us in a panic, and we'll guide you through it if you want. But I can tell you, if you call a licensing attorney, licensing attorneys are notorious deal killers. They'll nitpick it to death. They'll get all legal on it when you don't want to get legal. You want to get deal points. You want to get moving it forward. You want to be in problem solving mode. You want to be tweaking it, because most of the time you will be tweaking the product a little bit before it gets licensed. It's really common. If you're the inventor that doesn't want to change the name or change anything about it, you might as well quit now, because that's going to mess you up. If you're like, oh, they can't change the name, it has to be pink, can't be purple, or whatever it is, they'll be like, oh God, one of these. Okay. No, we decided to move on, even though they liked it. Okay. So don't be that inventor. Diane said, good evening, Andrew. Good evening, Diane. Could you please explain which of the manufacturers we license out our idea to? Is it the one that's making it? Yes, correct. You got it. You got it, Diane. I think you've been attending these for a while, so I think you're starting to get it. Let's see. Hassan, hi, Andrew. How do you approach a company regarding an improvement to one of their products, like improvements to the user interface that would make their user experience better, not a physical product? So Hassan, I don't find it to be very productive. I'm not saying you would never do it, but when you license, you don't try to license to one company. So people are like, oh, I see what this one company is doing. I have an improvement for what they're doing. What you should ask yourself then is, great, this is something I could suggest to them. Could 10, 15 other companies do the same thing? Could they make that improvement? Because to follow your provisional, to do a sell sheet, to do all that work, and it's like a suggestion for one company, you're not playing the numbers game there. Okay. So I think it's make it easier. Yeah. Ask yourself if there are other companies you could present that to as well. Okay. That's because it's just not a good numbers game to present one thing to one company. Just not. And that's like a mindset thing that, it's important. Thoughtful Jones, if a company expressed interest in seeing my product, asked if they could purchase it, and offered to sign an NDA, asked if they could purchase it. I sent them my NDA, but haven't heard back in 5 weeks. How would you follow up? I'm a little confused. If a company expressed interest in seeing my product, okay, they expressed interest, ask if they could purchase it. Well, I don't know. I think what you mean, ask if they could purchase it if it's on the market right now. I think that's what you mean. And offer to sign my NDA. Well, most companies, they don't want to bother signing your NDA, because then they need to have their legal team review it. That's a giant pain in the ass. Just file your provisional patent and show it to them, And That's not legal advice. Legal disclaimer. Consult an attorney if you need legal advice. But you haven't heard back in 5 weeks, we'll follow up with them. Just I don't understand if they're a potential licensee or not, Thoughtful Jones, if they're a company, a manufacturer that has product in stores. They express interest in seeing my product, not buying, and asked if they could purchase it. So I don't have enough information to go on there. I would just follow up with them. And you should be sending them a sell sheet or a video showing them what the product is. And then if they're interested, you get on the phone with them. It's just that simple. Under 10 said, hi, I developed a technique to paint artwork easily. I want to use this technique in a painting kit. That's cool. Should I fill out 2 PPAs, one for the technique and one for the kit? No, you can wrap it all in the same PPA. And kits are patentable. So one for the technique. Yeah, no, just throw it in the same provisional patent application. There's no reason to. It's the same product with similar benefits. So you can just throw that in the same PPA. There really are no rules for provisional patent applications. There are good rules of thumb, but there are no rules. So you can throw those. I mean, it can be written in common English. So yeah, I would just put the technique plus the fact how it's wrapped into the kit. I would throw that all into your PPA. Stefan said it was in regards to the hit list, 110 6 sell sheet request. Footwear industry. Ooh, that's tough industry. 45. So he sent to 110 companies and he got 6 sell sheet requests. In other words, 6 companies said, yeah, we'll look at your sell sheet after he asked permission, I suppose. And it's in the footwear industry. That's a brutal industry, man. That doesn't surprise me that's tough. Because it's fashion. That's what you're looking at. Remember we talked about fashion? And then he wrote for the other one, 45 got 7 requests back after 45 he sent to in the pet industry. You're getting a pretty low hit rate on saying, yes, you can send me your sell sheet. That's pretty low. If you only got 6 that said, yes, let me look at your sell sheet, of 110 you sent to, and then that was in the footwear industry, which is a difficult industry because it's fashion. And then out of 45 you sent to the pet, only 6. I was at SuperZoo, man. Pet companies are very open. To only say 6 out of 45 said, yes, send it over when you asked. That's abysmally low. Something's wrong. Something might be wrong with your request or how you're asking Stefan, or how you're reaching out, or you're reaching out to the wrong companies. You're doing something a little bit off there. But I commend you for reaching out to so many. But the number that are saying, yes, send me the sell sheet, that's too low. I don't know if you sent it multiple times. Maybe you only sent it once. But I would say even with just once, that's pretty low. No negative feedback for my first idea. Ironically, it may not. It may just be a hard industry. Yeah, shoes are a hard industry because they're in fashion, and I would keep it up with both of them. But you're probably, I mean, if I had to compare the two, are you more likely to license a pet product than a footwear product? Hell yeah. Yeah, definitely. Does that mean you shouldn't work on the footwear? No. Probably make you think about working on another one though, huh? So let's see. Ashley said, can I do my own sell sheet? What software is good for sell sheets? I don't recommend it. In the early days when we started 20 years ago, graphic designers were very expensive. And I think Stephen and myself as the co-founders, we made a mistake. We were trying to save our students money. We encouraged them to do it themselves. And then we would review it. But back then, 20 years ago, what you could send that looked acceptable would not remotely be acceptable now, because you can throw a rock and hit a graphic designer and get things done pretty affordably. We do virtual prototypes for our students, which is definitely going to be more expensive if you have to shop that around. I think we do a beautiful job for our students between the virtual prototype and then the sell sheet, and the virtual prototype goes in the sell sheet. Unless you're a graphic designer, Ashley, you should 100% never do your own sell sheet. Now, all our students do their own sell sheet with their coach to make sure the marketing is good. So what's the benefit statement? What are the bullet points? What are the pictures? Once you got good bones, then they would send it to our design studio, and our designers make it beautiful. So you're always in charge of making sure the marketing is good, but the actual graphic design and making everything look pretty, you should never do that unless you're a professional graphic designer yourself. So that's my viewpoint there. Margie said, "Do any of Stephen's books have a step-by-step guide to writing and filing the PPA?" No, not a step-by-step guide, but our software, Smart IP, does, Margie. So if you go to inventRight and you go on, I think it's like other products or whatever, and then you go patent software. I think it says patent software, but it's on inventRight.com. So we developed a software with patent attorney Jane Quinn, and it helps you file your provisional patent. Then you just pay the patent office fee of $75, which is a hell of a lot better than paying a couple grand to a patent attorney, I think. And anybody can do it. I have students that told me they didn't have a GED and they did it just fine. So you can file a provisional patent and use our Smart IP software. So go to inventright.com to learn more about that. And we give our students that unlimited use of it, but you can buy a one-time use of it as well on our website. Dana said, "Thank you, Dana." Hollow Andrew, wow them tonight. Dana is fantastic. She's involved. She's a former student of ours, and now she works with us. She's actually one of our advisors, and she's helping out with our Bridging the Gap program. We bring on 2 companies every month to our Bridging the Gap program, and they're a CEO or a marketing manager or design manager we had recently, and they say, "This is what we're looking for. Here's my product line." They show you their products. Here's what we're not looking for, is what we're looking for. And you learn about a lot of stuff that's not even on their site that they do. So it's pretty amazing. This one particular company that was on recently was showing us contract work they were doing. So it was almost like you can't just license to them, but you could also license to the companies that they do work for as well. So, but the company come on twice a month. So thank you, Dana, for doing that work. It's the Bridging the Gap program is amazing. That's included with our professional inventor one-on-one coaching program, by the way. Let's see, Scuba Steve. I always like your handle. If I have a packaging idea, I've never gone scuba diving, by the way. I got to do that one of these days. If I have a packaging idea that is just a tweak to an existing product that makes it better, would it still be necessary to file a PPA before contacting companies? Well, Scuba Steve, I don't know if you were here earlier when somebody asked, what are difficult industries or what are easy industries? And I say some difficult ones. You are not going to work on a packaging product without a PPA. Packaging companies are brutal. If you don't understand how it's going to be made and you haven't filed intellectual property on it, that's not an industry you want to forego the PPA ever, 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 ever. So you should definitely file a PPA before working on a packaging product. And you should think about whether or not you really want to work on it too, because the packaging products are long-term projects. They can drag and drag and drag. So when our students work on projects, if they file a provisional and they start reaching out to companies the next week, it's never going to take a year. But with a packaging product, it can drag that long easy. Now you got to ante up for the full utility patent because you want to preserve that filing date. Now I always tell people, like, if you filed a provisional, you haven't reached out publicly, or you just reached out even sometimes privately for license, you can file that provisional again. And consult an attorney before you act on that, because there's details there I don't want to ramble on because I cover it every time. But with a provisional, if you're in the packaging business, you want to preserve that filing date, because they will try to find a way around you if you can. And I only say that about packaging business. It's not true in other industries. So now once you hit that year, if you haven't done a deal, now you need to ante up for the full patent. So it's a more expensive game. So you need to know that quite often with a packaging product, which is not typical, it can drag beyond a year. A year of you actually working on it and reaching out, not a year of thinking about it, Okay. Matthew said, "Hi, Andrew. Thank you for putting this on. I have a question. Isn't it important to have a prototype of actual size? I'm looking to have one created, but the CAD file is a bit smaller than imagined." Without knowing your product, our students license stuff with no prototype at all the time. They do a virtual prototype and they sell the benefits in their sell sheet. So is it okay not to have a prototype of actual size? Yes. It's okay not to have a prototype at all. And your only prototype is a virtual prototype. So I don't see that as being a problem. The CAD file is a bit smaller than Imagine. So yeah, I don't see that as being a problem. Of course, I don't know your product. I don't have all the details, but on the surface, seems fine. Uh, let's see. Radu 767. Hi, Andrew. If your invention is an improvement on an existing product, which is most inventions, by the way, are you likely to get resistance from companies afraid it will cannibalize sales or highlight weaknesses in their existing product? So, yeah, so what? So you reached out to 30, 25, 30 companies, and a few feel that way, and others are like, oh no, this gives us a point of difference, so we can compete with the other ones because our product really isn't that much different than the others. So if it can give them a point of difference, so what? Reach out to them all, and if that's how they feel, that's how they feel. You only need one to license it to that wants that improvement to compete with all the others. So I don't see that as a problem. People overthink this stuff. Um, and when you approach companies, don't feel like you need to approach companies that are making exactly like something almost exactly like this. It's like, what about the companies that aren't making something like that, but they're in that space and they're in that category and they could compete with this company that's making it like this, but yours has that improvement. But approach the ones that have it too. Of course, without looking at your particular product. If you had a coach, the coach would be on with you. Okay, these make sense, those don't make sense. But generally, if you're not sure, just push it out to everybody. I mean, what are they going to do? Go, oh, I don't like you because you're going to try to compete with me. I mean, what are they going to do? You put patent pending on your sell sheet, you're all good. Um, Okay. DZ Vlog said, "What is the cost of being an inventRight student? How much more of value is it being a student officially versus consuming all the free published content and books?" So, you can look at a book or a video and you could ask it a question and it won't say anything back. Now, I guess one exception is here on a live Q&A, but I'm not looking at any of your guys' products in particular and giving you feedback. That's what a coach is going to do. So that's the difference. A book, a video, you could ask it a question, it won't say anything back to you. It won't look at your product and say, no, this is the right path, or this company said that. Okay, this is the right exact next thing to say. So that's what a coach does. And that's why you see our students license products all the time. And you don't see our fans licensing stuff nearly as much. So the cost, you can pay for the one-on-one coaching. It includes a sell sheet, a virtual prototype, software to file a provisional, a negotiation coach on call for half a year. So you don't need to call a licensing attorney. That alone is worth $3,500. And then talking to your coach one-on-one every single week, emailing them anytime. And so you can pay over 6 months, but it's like $3,500. And that includes a virtual prototype and a sell sheet. I think I said that. Our group coaching program is about $1,300, and again, you can pay that over 6 months, and includes 3 one-on-one sessions, which is not at all the same as talking to your coach every single week on the one-on-one, but it's something we recently added to our group coaching because we realized a lot of people in the group coaching were a little bit. It's like, whoa, that's what they thought was good. So at least we have a mechanism to catch it with a few one-on-one calls there. So those are the costs. The academy is about $1,300. And the group coaching is about $3,500. Both you can pay over 6 month period. So this next person, you got such a long handle. I'm not sure what your name is. The person who came up with the rear camera, how did he license it to all the car companies? I don't know if he did. I don't know if anybody. I don't know what the patents are on that. I have no idea what the history on that is. There's this weird assumption that people have that every cool idea was patented and that some inventor was behind it or some company patented it and kept all the other companies from doing it. When you see something that's really prolific and it's on everything, there's probably no patent on it or it's weak. So you see a backup cameras. I'm sure there are patents. I've never researched backup cameras on cars. I'm sure there's patents on backup cameras, but the general concept of a backup camera, obviously everybody's doing it, so there's no patent on that. But there's might be a patent on certain aspects of it. Maybe there's certain grid lines or certain technologies or things like that. So I don't have the answer to that. It's an interesting question, but let's not assume that one inventor invented that and then they got royalties from all the car companies. I doubt that's the case. I've never studied it. I have no idea. I have to look it up. Caleb said, "How descriptive should the video for sell sheet be? Worried about over disclosing information." Okay, or sell sheet be, I think is what you meant. So your sell sheet or your video, that's doing all the selling for you. So if it's a sell sheet, it's a one-page PDF, benefit statement, a few bullet points, pictures. It's an advertisement. So they should understand the benefit of your product within 6 seconds. And that's very hard for people to do. And that's a huge benefit of having a coach to make sure that you do that. I've talked to so many inventors where they think they're doing that. And I look at it, I'm like, okay, I've been coaching inventors for 2 decades. I thought about it a bit. I get it, but other people will not take the time to figure this out. It's not clear. Okay. So now I can read into what Caleb's writing here. And what he's saying is he's actually considering not including too much information because he's worried about getting ripped off, which is a very common concern. Don't do that. Okay, some products are just really simple. You're going to send the sell sheet, and it's just obvious what it is, and they could make it and sell it if they wanted to because it's just obvious. Okay, and you filed your provisional patent at the bottom, not in big, huge letters, tiny little letters. It says patent pending. Okay, at the bottom of your sell sheet. So you have to be okay with that, and you put them on notice that it's patent pending. To hold back on information that will help them understand it in 6 seconds, friggin' stupid. Never, ever do that. Why would I say ever? There's always exceptions, right? But just almost never do that. Now, some products, they see the product, the benefit is clear because you're relaying the benefits, not all those little nitpicky details. And they don't understand the inner workings of it, but it doesn't matter. The sell sheet is for their customer. They get it and they're intrigued. And now they want to ask you about some little detail on it. That's fine. As long as you're not holding back on any information that would be the way that they would sell it to a customer and it drives home the benefit. So sometimes they'll be, they're like, how is he making that work? But don't hide it if you don't need to. No, that's not a good way of saying it. Don't hide it in the interest of thinking they're going to rip you off, but it hurts your marketing presentation. Okay. Ever. Don't hide it. I want to say ever, but almost never. Make your marketing presentation clear. And some products are just so simple, they're going to understand everything about it, but you put patent pending on there, you filed your provisional patent. Okay. Other times there are things that are hidden. It didn't hurt your marketing presentation. That's fine as well. And they might inquire with those details. How does this thing working? But don't hold back if it hurts your marketing presentation. So that was a great question, Caleb. I love that question. Under 10. Oh, Nella. Thank you, Andrew. Best regards from Costa Rica. Oh, great. Beautiful country. I think you were on last week too. That's cool. Matthew Nathan said, what would you say are the hottest industries right now? I think any industry you want to work on is a good industry. Do you want the hottest industry? You want an industry that you care about? Don't work on it in an industry where you're like, I just hate cooking, and you're like working on kitchen cutting boards. Don't do that. So I think you could look at different industries that are hot right now, but I don't think you have to be in a hot industry to license products. I think you just need good products in any industry. I think when certain industries are dinosaurs and you see and look at all the products in that space and you see they haven't done anything innovative in like forever and a day, I see two things there. Okay, why is this industry so stale? Okay, I see also an opportunity. There's an opportunity to invent where you come up with something halfway creative And they might be like, wow, this is great. And you're like, well, that's not that great. It's like, but they're thinking it's great because nobody's doing anything in this industry. But you have to ask yourself, why is this industry such a dinosaur and so stale? What makes them so slow to change, which might also affect your ability to license the product because they're resistive to change. So I really, hate to say like this industry is hot. I mean, I don't think an industry has to be hot to license in it. If your product is good, if you think your product is hot within that space and makes sense given only their products, you should go for it. So I don't really know when people ask that question what that really means. I think it's a decent question to ask, but I see students licensing all over the place. I mean, I have one student, she's licensed like 80 pieces of her artwork. This is unusual. So she's approaching companies where she sees that the products have printed artwork on them, and she's approaching them to license her artwork to tech wearables because a lot of, hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Can you guys type in yes if you can hear me? We got about 8 minutes to go. Okay, I think we're good. It's just that connection was unstable for a second. So because wearables are hot, products have maybe some tech built in, but you're wearing them at the same time. Um, doesn't mean you should work on them because what I've found is those companies are typically startup companies. They're not established companies, been around a long time, and they're so obsessed with their current tech wearable that they're not ready or financially able to take on a new tech wearable. Now, if they've reached maturity with that product, they need the next greatest thing. Great. So that's an example of an industry that I see that can be kind of considered hot or cool or new. But do I think it's easy to do a deal with them? No. So I think that established industries where there's a large customer base and they constantly need new products, for instance, kitchen and home store organization, is a good category to invent in. But also going into a category where you're not seeing a lot of innovation, but some, that can be a good category too. Maybe they're not getting as many new ideas, and then yours stands out. Maybe yours isn't even that good, but because they don't see a lot of ideas, they really like it, and you don't have as much competition. So I don't really know how to define that. I think it's such a good question, but I would say go with something you're passionate about. And if you want to have a higher chance of success, don't focus in those industries that I talked about. Fashion, very tough. Packaging, very tough. Software, very tough. Those are three industries I gave you at the top of the call that I said are really difficult to license in. Um, let's see. So thank you, Matthew, for that question. uh, Dan said, is it Dan? Yeah. Too many. Dan, your name has two N's. I gotta see if that. Let me see if that's okay. Oh no, it's damn, not Dan. Yeah, I put on my glasses there. Somebody said, "Damn, too many questions for one man to answer." LOL. Yeah, sometimes, but you guys can tell. I mean, if you guys just jumped on or if you attending this before, I really like rapid fire, and people told me they like it. If you want to give me some feedback before we take off here, if you like it, if you think I'm talking too fast, answering too many questions, I never had anybody complain about that. So yeah, I like just giving a lot of value, even though it's free here. But I like giving a lot of value. It's just the way I am. Okay. Rugby 342 said, "Can my PPA include info about how to manufacture it, or do I need to file an additional PPA?" Absolutely. You can put into your PPA also any manufacturing techniques you have. We call it, there's not an official term, but a method of manufacturing patent. So you can absolutely cover that in your PPA as well. You don't need to do a separate PPA. And that can be very strong. Sometimes you can't, some things aren't patentable themselves, but the method of manufacturing is. Now, a lot of times inventors don't understand how it'd be manufactured. So that can be hard for some folks. But yeah, you can absolutely cover that in there as well. Okay. Also, Scared money don't make money. Wonder where I've heard that before. Scared money doesn't make money. Um, what beautiful thing about licensing is, with a $75 provisional patent, a few bucks for a virtual prototype and a sell sheet, or maybe you cobble together a prototype, you can be potentially earning a lot of money. It's a very low risk approach to getting your product out into the marketplace. People can do it. You can't like not have two pennies to rub together, but it can be close to that, and you can still work on licensing your products. So, no matter how broke you are, I encourage you guys to work on your products. Um, for a $75 PPA, a sell sheet, and a virtual prototype, or you cobble together a prototype and your sweat equity to make your list of companies, make a good presentation, reach out. Anybody can do this. I think it's the great equalizer. I'm very happy to be a big advocate for licensing. You don't need to have a bunch of money or a bunch of experience to do it. But you do need to follow the rules. Don't just make up like, oh, I came up with an idea and my uncle said it was a great idea. I better get a patent on it. So I ran out and gave 10 grand to a patent attorney. It's like, why'd you listen to your uncle? You should listen to them because they were trying to say something kind to you. They're saying this is a great idea, but don't listen to the advice part. You better get a patent on it because that's not the first thing you do when you come up with an idea. You do your research first. Ashley was asking about our membership when we do one-on-one coaching for the 6 months. Over the 6 months, do you only work on one product? What if I have several ideas? Yeah, if you're motivated enough, you can work on 2 or 3 projects. Ashley, it depends on you. What I've found is when our students come on board with us, we do the one-on-one coaching. Um, it's going to go a lot slower on your first project because you're doing 2 things. We're making sure you do and say everything right on your project, but also you're learning everything for the first time. So when I see our students working on a second project, it goes 2 to 10 times faster because they have that experience. So when one of our students gets their calls in for their first project and they tell their coach, I want to start working on a second one. They go, great. You just put the first one into maintenance mode, keep pushing it out. That's not a full-time gig. Then you can start working on the second one, but always make your first one a priority. Let's say Monday, Tuesday, you're pushing back out to reach out to companies again on project number 1. Now the rest of the week, you're earning the right to work on project number 2. So we do not limit you to one project. We do limit you out of the gate, only work on one, because in the past we have people, I want to work on 5, and it's like everything they're doing 5 times. It doesn't work. Okay, so we do not limit our students for working on one project, but we limit you at the beginning to get at least your initial calls, and you don't have to be done with it, and LinkedIn messages in to that company, and then you can start working on a second project. So we're all about empowering you so you can work on projects the rest of your life. It's not just about one idea. So I like that you asked that question. So we have just a maybe question for 1 or 2. Let's see. If I only want to sell product ideas, do I still need to patent them? So I think you're kind of new to the game, Gracie. Gracie, yes, you do need to patent them, but you do we call a provisional patent application that you can write in layman's terms, and it lets you legally say patent pending for an entire year. And we have some software on inventright.com that can help you do that. So you'd file a provisional patent for $75. You can legally say patent pending, go fishing, and see if there's interest. So if you're new, that's good information for you. Let's see. This is like a detailed question, but I'm going to go. P-Dub said, Paul here. In my PPA, can I cite current products on the market by name? No, you don't want to do that. With a URL like a technical report to say it works like these. No, you have to just talk about what you're protecting. Or is that not advisable? It's not advisable. You don't want to do that. You want to talk about how your product works, okay, and what you're protecting. And that could actually mess you up if you do that, if you cite those other products. Yeah, so be careful there. Forrest's channel said, hey, Andrew, your reliable live streams are priceless. Thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty reliable, huh? I've been doing these for God knows how long. Okay. Bob says, what's all included in the $300 InventRight companies package? I don't know. We don't have a $300 package, Bob. So what I would do, Bob, is go to inventright.com, click on contact us. You'll get a calendar to book with Sylvia or Dana, and they're both super friendly. Nobody's ever going to hard sell you at InventRight. Book an appointment. So go to InventRight, click on contact us, book an appointment, talk to an advisor. They can explain um, our academy program and our professional inventor one-on-one program. So before we get going, guys, I want to just ask a favor of you, which I've been asking every time I do these. If you're not subscribed, please click on subscribe down below. If you're already subscribed, don't click on it again because then you're unsubscribed. Nothing happens when you subscribe. You won't get spam from us or anything. It just shows YouTube that you liked what we were doing, and you might get notified like when we're going live if you're actually on YouTube at the time, stuff like that. That's about it. So I'd love to hit 80,000 subscribers within, like, let's say, the next 5 or 6, 7, 8 months. That would be fantastic if you can help us do that. And then also watch a bunch of our YouTube videos and give us thumbs up on the YouTube videos. That helps the algorithm, the YouTube algorithm. That's going to help us. So if you appreciated me coming on for an entire hour and answering your questions for free, if you could do those two things, subscribe, watch more of our videos. There's not a sales pitch for our course or anything in our videos every 2 minutes. We're really chill about that. So watch our videos, get yourself educated, and remind everybody to take care and keep inventing. See you guys. Bye.